Okay, welcome to London. Behind me is London Bridge Station. That, somewhere up there, it's super foggy today. Somewhere up there in the fog is the Shard building. The reason I've come to London Bridge is just here in the shadow of the Shard and opposite the station is Borough Market. And that's where I'm going to get the ingredients for today's full English breakfast. The reason I'm coming to Borough Market is arguably the best speciality food market here in London. Not just in London, but the whole of the UK. It would be one of the top 5 speciality food markets in the whole of Europe, top 10 in the world. The key point is it's a great market. So what ingredients am I getting? Well, the ingredients of the full English breakfast is something that divides the nation. No one can agree what the key components of a full English are. And I've eaten in a lot of the Greasy Spoon cafes and hotels all around the country, and they're always slightly different. There are always variations. And the reason for that is it's a dish that's been evolving since the 13th century. Traditionally, it was a cooked breakfast was the preserve of the rich, the landed gentry, and they used it as a display of wealth for their guests. That probably peaked in the Victorian and Edwardian era, where they turned breakfast into a fine art form and put on huge buffets of amazing dishes that we would probably think of as evening meals today. But then the period of conspicuous wealth kind of ended at the end of the Edwardian era with World War I and World War II, and then post World War II and after rationing in the 50s, the full English became the breakfast of choice for the working classes. And the Greasy Spoon took the component parts of the wealthy Victorians and Edwardians cooked breakfast and put them all on one affordable plate. Right, this is Borough Market here. It's sort of in a maze underneath the railway arches, so let's pop in.
The first records of Borough Market and the church next door that is today Southwark Cathedral date back to the medieval period. The market was a little further along the river in a churchyard, but probably due to development and building work moved out onto the main road we just crossed Borough High Street in the 1500s. It's right at the end of London Bridge, one of the River Thameses major crossings, so it's always been a busy road. And in 1691 the market was ordered to only operate on one side of the road to ease congestion, but by the 1750s the increase in horse-drawn coaches, carts and carriages meant the congestion had become so bad that Parliament abolished the street market in 1755. So the market moved off the street to what was then the churchyard on this piece of land here, called the Triangle, where it still is today. In 1862, during the construction of London Bridge Station, the train tracks were built that run right over the market, and you can see the huge green pillars that hold up the train viaduct. Obviously the market protested, but the train lines won. However, the train companies did compensate the market by building market buildings, and from then on the market became covered and no longer open to the rain. Ultimately the market developed into London's main fruit and veg wholesale market, supplying London's independent grocers. However, the rise of the supermarket post-World War II saw the demise of independent grocers and street markets all over the UK, especially here in London. By the 1990s the market looked derelict, and a new wave of wholesalers that supplied restaurants and speciality food ingredients moved into the warehouses. The likes of Brindisa and Neal's Yard Dairy, who are still here today. They hosted odd retail events, and in the late 90s, early noughties, an artisan food market was begun, originally one Saturday a month. It was popular, the demand for something other than supermarkets was here, and pretty quickly Borough Market developed into this, arguably Britain's most renowned speciality food market, one of the best in Europe and the world today. The market itself is open Monday to Saturday, shut on Sundays except for special occasions like the Sunday before Christmas.
Okay, the market super busy on Saturdays. It's a Saturday today. Super popular with both Londoners and tourists because you can buy produce here to cook at home, but also for visitors to London there's plenty of places serving up breakfast, lunch and dinner on the market stalls and in the restaurants here to sample at the market.
Saturdays are my favourite day to visit Borough Market. It's the busiest day, obviously the traders know it, so they have the most stuff on offer. It's early so it's quiet now, by lunchtime it will be buzzing with people, which gives the market an incredible energy and atmosphere.
Coming here, people declare rock close. I reckon if the squeeze the
The market's layout is to some extent dictated by the train tracks above, with these open spaces connected by a warren of alleyways and passageways which really add to the market's atmosphere and charm. This, the main square, is the market's largest trading area, with shops and stalls with produce that includes fruit and veg, meat, fish, bread and cheese, a whole eclectic mix of produce. And the spaces around the edges too, and in the side streets, they have food and produce from all over the world, and an incredible array of British produce.
Okay, I'm going to get the meat from the Ginger Pig for my full English breakfast. Got an amazing selection of sausages, bacon, hopefully they'll have the black pudding, but yeah, all manner of meat and poultry and game. So let's go in.
The Ginger Pig began over 20 years ago with a near derelict farmhouse and just 3 Tamworth pigs. It's grown into a farm with over 3,000 acres of pasture and North Yorkshire moorland, and a handful of central London butchers' shops. This was the first here at Borough Market, and I'm pretty sure if you don't see what you need, they can order it in for you. Importantly, today they have a great choice of bacon and sausages for our breakfast.
Two of the large Cumberland, please.
Okay, success. Managed to get all the meat for today's breakfast from the Ginger Pig. Sausage, bacon, black pudding. I'll show you what when we get home. Let's get some coffee.
Monmouth Coffee sell beans, ground or unground, and the queue is for a cup of their freshly brewed coffee. Founded in the 1970s, for a long time it was the best coffee in town. Today they have strong competition, but Monmouth is still very much a firm favourite with Londoners.
Okay, when I meant coffee beans, I've got Monmouth's espresso blend. There's 2 queues. One for the beans there, which is very short. The one that stretches around the corner most of the day is for cups of coffee. It's that good and that popular. You can go home and make your own. Okay, we'll try and get some tomatoes and mushrooms from the fruit and veg stall here, turnips.
Look at this amazing selection of different tomato varieties, all different shapes and sizes, even different colours. I'm going to go for some of these really dark skinned ones, a really dark red, almost black. They're called Black Crim. They probably won't taste all that different, they just look pretty cool on the plate. They have an equally impressive selection of mushrooms, amazing colours, and mushrooms are the most amazing shapes. So much choice, in fact I'm not entirely sure which ones to pick right now, so I think I'm going to get one of their assorted little wooden boxes. It's an assortment of the different mushroom varieties they have available today with some herbs. They look incredible.
Okay, success. Tomatoes and mushrooms from turnips.
The smell of all the food's incredible. You've got the mix of fresh food and the food cooking. For instance, here we've got paella cooking away right next to a seafood stall. If it wasn't freezing cold, you could easily imagine you're on the coast of Spain.
There are a few great pubs here in the market, but it's a bit early for the pub, but you can check out my other Borough Market videos if you want to see some visits to the market stalls and some of the food you can try here and a visit to the pubs. If you want to try Great British fish and chips, you can pop to the fish restaurant too. Okay, I need some bread. There's this bakery here, Bread Ahead. They actually bake bread here, and they have a bakery school, so you can learn to bake bread here, but their market stall is in the market, so let's pop there and get some bread for our full English breakfast.
Bread Ahead here is probably most renowned and most popular for their deep filled donuts with some amazing fillings. And you can also watch the bread being baked in the glass fronted bakery just where we were around the corner. They have a selection of fresh sourdough bread, cheese and olive sticks, white tin loaves, focaccia, ciabatta and patisserie. I'm here to get a white sourdough. All the cakes and pastries at Bread Ahead look amazing, and they look like they're selling fast too. Popular choice for breakfast there, the croissant. The sugar coated almond one there at the back looks delicious. Today we're having one of these, a loaf of white sourdough. I think I'm going to get a large one.
Okay, white sourdough bread from Bread Ahead market stall. There is some butter to put on it. Okay, I need some eggs. Eggs are important, and some butter. So I'm going to head to the dairy here, Neal's Yard Dairy. Mainly do cheese, but they also do some amazing butters, and they'll have eggs too.
Neal's Yard Dairy is the place for cheese. They sell farmhouse cheese from the UK and Ireland. They work with about 40 different cheese makers. The cheese counter's the other side of the store, and the queues to get in and taste and buy some cheese today. I'm just here for butter, and they have a great selection of butter too. Sweet cream butter, raw butter, whey butter, cultured butter. I'm going to get some eggs while I'm here too.
Okay, success. Eggs and butter from the dairy, Neal's Yard Dairy. Amazing looking cheese, amazing smelling cheese. Right, back to the market. Okay, we've got all the key ingredients for our full English breakfast. Sausage, bacon, eggs, tomatoes, mushrooms, bread and butter. So let's head home and get cooking. You can even buy frying pans and utensils if you need them here. There's like a cook shop just here on the perimeter of the market. Okay, back from the market with my ingredients for our full English breakfast. Now, it's been a foggy day here today. It was foggy when I woke up, it was foggy while I was at the market. It's still grey and foggy out there right now. So, this is the perfect dish to brighten up any gloomy day here in London. Now, this is really going to be a mix of the old and the new. The modern, full English breakfast that we've all grown up and grown to love, and using more traditional style ingredients. The modern breakfast, as I've said earlier, probably developed into what it is today post World War II, so post rationing. The cooked breakfast became the breakfast of the people, and greasy spoon cafes up and down the country were competing on price. So when recipes say get the cheapest white bread and use milky builder's tea and very bland sausages, they're effectively trying to recreate the breakfast you would find in a greasy spoon. The reality is you'll probably never make it cheap enough or greasy enough. So, I mean, certainly here in London, it would be probably more economic for me just to go to the greasy spoon rather than try and recreate it. So I'm going to make the dish that everyone recognises, the one plate wonder that is the full English breakfast today, but using ingredients that previous generations, the Edwardians, the Victorians and their predecessors, the kind of quality ingredients they would have expected. I did pick up some additions at the supermarket on the way home. Probably got these in the cupboard, but I'm not sure if they would be camera ready. Tomato sauce, Heinz tomato ketchup, HP sauce, the original, and some Liam Perrings Worcestershire sauce. That will help the cooking. So, right, let's see what we're doing. Coffee. Let's get the coffee machine on. I think I'll have an espresso first up. I'll make an espresso with the coffee. I'll show you in a moment how I'd make a far simpler cup of coffee. Let's get a pan on and the heat on. I'm just going to use one big pan. Right. Okay, like I was saying, the key ingredients, sausage, bacon and eggs. Beyond that, everyone's going to disagree and have a personal preference. So, from the ginger pig, I've got the sausage, bacon and eggs. Now, bacon is different in different countries. Here in Britain, most cafes, when you go for breakfast and get bacon, you'll get back bacon. So, and that's what back bacon looks like. So, yeah, in Britain that would be the most common type of bacon, the most common cut of bacon you'll get for breakfast. So I got some back bacon. Now, in America, if you're watching this in America, you're probably more familiar with streaky bacon. Now, again, people will argue endlessly about which is best. Just use both. They're different, so we're going to use both. We have some streaky bacon and some back bacon. So that is the bacon taken care of. Now, I've got my sausages from the ginger pig as well. Old Spot sausages. So I'm guessing the breed of pig is Old Spot. Two huge sausages. Maybe I'll just have one of those. In a lot of cafes, now when people are making normal restaurant dishes, they usually produce odd numbers. It looks better on a plate, 1s, 3s and 5s. The full English is slightly different. A lot of places you'll get 2 of everything. So 2 bacon, 2 sausage, 2 egg, 2 whatever additions you're having. Black pudding. This is just another type of sausage made with blood. It sounds slightly worse than it is, but yeah, black pudding. One of my additions to the sausage, bacon and eggs. I've got some eggs from Neal's Yard Dairy. That's fresh eggs. Butter as well. I'm going to use a little bit of this for cooking and for the bread. Okay, Abbey Farm butter, made from pure fresh whey cream. Salt added. So salted butter. Okay, I've got some tomatoes, slightly unusual in that they're black. They should look pretty good on the plate. I'm sure they'll be red on the inside. I'm going to cut those in half and I'm going to fry those. So that is one of my other additions. And these mushrooms look amazing. I'm not going to use them all. Check those out. I have no idea what all of those are and I'm not going to use them all, but yeah, a little bit of rosemary. I would probably throw that in if I wasn't sharing this, but yeah, people will be outraged at that. Rosemary's not a sanctioned addition to the full English. So yeah, I'm having sausage, bacon and eggs. My additions today are going to be tomatoes, black pudding and mushrooms. Now that means I can fry everything all in one pan. But first of all, coffee. Espresso. Monmouth espresso. I've got the beans. Monmouth are one of the first wave of this generation of specialty coffee shops. So stick those in the grinder, grind up some fresh beans, make an espresso.
Okay, whole beans into the hopper of our grinder. I'm using an electric grinder. We have a hand grinder and the hand grinders work incredibly well, obviously slower than the electric ones. The only thing we couldn't get the hand grinder to do was grind fine enough for the Lapavoni lever machine. Other than that, the hand grinders work perfectly well for all of our other coffee machines. Okay, just need to remove the portfolio basket from this coffee machine we're using today, a Lapavoni lever machine, and then fill it with a dose of coffee. I need a level dose of coffee, which means, as you can see, overfilling it and then levelling it off. Now, getting the grind size correct for the different coffee machines takes a little bit of playing about with the settings. Too fine and not enough water will come through. Too coarse and too much will come flooding through. And then, well, the machine's already set up for that, so we've already done the playing about. And then tamping it. Again, if you tamp it too much, if you apply too much pressure, not enough water will come through. And if you apply not enough pressure, too much water will come through. So it takes a bit of practice getting this just right. So we're ready to go. Lift the lever up and the machine will fill with hot water. And then it's just a matter of pushing down, applying enough pressure to push the water through the ground coffee.
Okay. Good looking cup of espresso, Monmouth espresso. I've got their espresso blend. That's delicious. I'll get cooking and then I'll show you how to make a far simpler cup of coffee with beans or ground coffee from espresso without having to get all the gear to make shots. Right, let's get cooking.
Okay, first into our hot pan is some butter, a knob of butter. Now, it's no secret restaurants use loads of butter when they're cooking, and there's a very good reason for that. It makes everything taste better. So first up, a knob of butter into the pan. We'll let that melt down a little and then get our first item in, which is the one that will take the longest to cook, our sausages. Now, I've got 2 sausages, but they're massive. So I'm only going to cook one for my breakfast this morning. So I'll get that cooking while we prepare the next item, which will be the black pudding. Now again, I've got a fair chunk of it, too much for one breakfast, so I'm going to slice off a couple of slices. Now, most black pudding you get in the supermarkets, the skin of it looks like a sausage. You cook it and you eat it. However, this one, I'm pretty confident that skin is plastic, some sort of plastic, and not edible. Either way, I'm going to remove it. Someone I know, and I'm not going to mention any names, but yeah, someone I know, they actually, the first time they got supermarket sausages and had to cook them for themselves, they thought the skin on the outside was packaging, and they squeezed the meat out like a tube of toothpaste into the pan. And then they told everyone, and they've never been allowed to forget it ever since. Okay, the sausage and our black pudding's been cooking away for a little while now, so I'm going to pop in the bacon. Now this is the back bacon, got quite thick slices here. So yeah, first of all the back bacon, and this is my top tip for a great full English, a great fry up. Use both types of bacon, back bacon and streaky bacon. So first up we're going in there with the back bacon and then a piece of streaky bacon. Again, quite thick, generous slices from the ginger pig. So yeah, one of each. Okay, now our sausage, black pudding, back bacon and streaky bacon are frying away. I'm going to chop up some of our mushrooms to go in. Now, I'm going to be honest, I've got no idea what variety of mushroom many of these are. So, I'm just going to pick out some of the more interesting looking ones, chop them up and pop them in the pan. Okay, this little selection of mushrooms look pretty cool. Quite interesting shapes there. I'm going to chop those into roughly even sized pieces, and the mushrooms are like sponges, so they should suck up some of those juices from the back bacon, the streaky bacon, the sausage and the black pudding, of course. Some of that butter, which will make them taste incredible. And now they're in the pan, I want to slice one of our tomatoes in half, get that in the pan and brown it off a little, get some heat in there. Now I went for the black skin tomatoes, pretty confident on the inside they'll probably be a little redder than they are on the outside. And yeah, they just look pretty cool. So slice that in half, see what they look like on the inside. Yeah, red, more green than black there on the edges. But yeah, I'll put those cut side down and brown them off a little bit. Okay, now everything's cooking on nicely, well, nearly cooked. I can add the last of our ingredients, the eggs. I'm just going to shallow fry 2 of the eggs inside the pan. I'll make room for them there. I like my eggs, I like the whites cooked so they're no longer snotty and the yolks slightly runny. But obviously, everyone's going to be different. Some people are going to prefer their eggs poached, some scrambled. I bet there's people out there that even have them boiled. But yeah, and the way people cook each of those is obviously going to be personal preference. And now the eggs are in, last but not least, obviously seasoning with some salt and pepper, but importantly Worcestershire sauce, which is just going to make everything taste better. Okay, for those of you not from the UK wondering what Worcestershire sauce is, it's a unique flavour. The exact recipe is a secret. The ingredients I can tell you include vinegar, molasses, sugar, salt, anchovies, tamarind, onions, garlic, spices and some other secret flavourings. The nearest thing I could describe it as is mixing some soy sauce with fish sauce. Okay, breakfast is very nearly ready. Let me put the kettle on and I'll show you probably the quickest and most convenient way to make a delicious cup of coffee at home. Cafetiere French press, I think they're called as well. Now I bought beans earlier, so if you buy beans you need to
get a grinder. The hand grinders are very good. I've got an electric grinder. So you need to grind your coffee beans. Just put a couple of scoopfuls of freshly ground coffee. So a couple of scoops of coffee there in the bottom of the press. Top with hot water. Pop the lid on, and then you just press this filter down. And that is it. Probably the quickest and most convenient way to make some freshly brewed coffee at home. We've got quite a bit of kit to make espresso. I'm going to be honest, it costs a fortune to get all the gear. And hours and hours and hours of frustrating practice to get it right. I definitely start off with something like this that's nice and simple. Even some of the, if you really just want hassle-free, the pod machines will be a great thing as well. But yeah, we went through kilos of beans practicing with the espresso machines just to get it right and the grind right. This is hard to get wrong. It's not quite as rewarding as making fresh espresso, but nowhere near as frustrating when you're trying to learn how to make it either. This is the espresso blend that I got from Monmouth. So you can tell the coffee shop what method of brewing you're planning when you buy your beans, and they'll even grind it for you as well if you haven't got a grinder. Pretty good. Obviously it's their blend for espresso, so it would be better if I'd have got the blend or a bean that was roasted specifically for a cafetiere. Right. I think breakfast is ready. One thing I got is some sourdough from the Bread Ahead Bakery. Some fresh bread. Now, traditionally you'd either have bread and butter or toast today, so I've got fresh bread. I'm going to have bread and butter. Maybe tomorrow in the morning I'll be using it for toast. Got the amazing fresh butter. Pop that in a butter dish. Perfect. Okay. Slice. Amazing fresh sourdough. Right, let's put some of this fresh butter. Okay, here we go. Look at that. So we've got sausage, Old Spot sausage, eggs, bacon, the key ingredients to a full English breakfast. I've got back bacon and streaky bacon. Gone for additional black pudding, fresh mushrooms, they looked amazing, and fresh tomatoes, fried. Got sourdough bread and butter, and coffee. Now obviously, traditionally you're looking at builder's tea, people say, which is very weak milk tea, but personally I prefer coffee. So let's plate this up. There's no pretty way of doing this. Well, there's probably a prettier way of doing it than I will.
Okay, so here's my full English breakfast. The basis of any full English breakfast: sausage, bacon, eggs. I've got the addition of black pudding, mushrooms and tomatoes. Now the list of additions people add to their full English are endless, including hash browns, bubble and squeak, eggy bread, kippers, pancakes, onions, corned beef, kidneys, kedgeree, omelette, fried bread, toast, oatcakes, English muffins, baked beans, tatty scones, lawn sausage and white pudding. I've even seen French fries on the menu in a lot of cafes, so as you can imagine, the scope for additions is endless.
Okay, right, let's try this now. 2 traditional British sauces, Heinz tomato ketchup and the original HP sauce. Again, opinion will be divided about which is best. I like a bit of both. Mix them up a bit. Got to get them out of the bottle first, that is the challenge. Okay, it's a bit of ketchup. Also I cooked using Worcestershire sauce. Now, if you're not in Britain, HP sauce, some people have said it's a bit like barbecue sauce. It's kind of. It's one of those things. It's unique. It's a bit like Worcestershire sauce. Again, a very unique flavour, secret recipe. You really have to try it. So. There's a little bit of mix. Right, first up, let's try the sausage. The sauce. That's delicious. Yeah, really strong taste of pork there. I guess unlike cheaper sausages. Let's try a bit of the back bacon. Nice and crispy. I got smoked. They do smoked and unsmoked. Really get the smoky flavour. And right, streaky bacon. Really intense flavour. Again, I've got smoked. Definitely recommend that. Top tip: back bacon and streaky bacon. Let's try this black pudding, the ginger pig black pudding. That's incredible. Good quality black pudding. Really tastes a little bit more. Well, it tastes more than the inexpensive type. A little bit. I guess if you've never had it before, the nearest thing I could describe it as is like frying liver pate. Right, let's try these tomatoes. The black tomatoes. They taste just like normal tomatoes. And the mushrooms. The mushrooms looked incredible in that box. I've no idea what varieties they were. I've got a mix up there. Really interesting flavours there. And the eggs from Neal's Yard Dairy. May have overcooked them a little touch there, messing around with the coffee at the end. For a slightly runnier yolk, must admit. delicious. Right, sourdough bread from Bread Ahead. Dip that in the yolk. A bit of yolk on there, and fresh butter. That's amazing as well. Right, I'm going to tuck into this. I hope you enjoyed this visit to Borough Market. A look at how to make, hopefully, the most incredible full English breakfast money can buy here in England, in London. And until next time, toodles. Fresh coffee. Right. Until next time, toodles.